allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. We have Gary Farmer. Yes. Present. Bob Boyette. Present. Dave Dolman, Dr. Dolman. Here. Let's see. Sharon Mott, is Sharon? Shoot. Let's see. And Kevin. Here. And also we have with us Andy Armstrong, Cheryl, and also our legal counsel, Rachel. So thank you all for being here. To start it, and we'll start with the approval of the agenda. Have in front of you in your packet. Mr. Chairman. Yes. Yes, Derek. If there are no changes, move that we accept the agenda as presented. Okay, it's been moved that we accept the agenda as presented at the stage. I have a second. Second by Dave Bill. Thank you, Dave.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would suggest that before we vote, we correct the date on the agenda. Should be August.
Here. Date. It said 18. Okay. We might be meeting tomorrow.
But we didn't meet yesterday.
Yes, sir. Days of 19. Thank you, Rod, for the detail. Yes.
Yeah, good catch, good catch. I don't know what, ELSSP means, but that has nothing to do with the SLPI, right?
No.
No. It seems like we should have some further just mention of, okay, what are we gonna do with that? In other words, like, what's next? Nothing, to my knowledge, has happened at all over the summer, so it seems like we should just have some kind of a conversation about status or what's up next. Does that seem appropriate?
So I think the discussion around ELSSP will have to take place prior to us figuring that piece out.
Okay.
Because
don't know
that's going to impact that.
Okay, I don't know what ELSSP is, but I'll trust you on that. Okay.
ELSSP, what is that? Do we mind expanding on that acronym?
That is the Early Learning Sensory Support Program.
Big transfer.
Pre-K program.
Okay, we'll move on. That's answer that question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have 2 more minutes and then we'll move on to minutes. Approval of minutes. Yes. About June 1st minutes. If you haven't seen them, they came to us.
Terry.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. Thank you so much.
So we'll need a motion to.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if there's no corrections to the minutes, I move we accept the minutes as presented.
It's been moved, second. Okay.
I'll do my part.
Okay. Smooth this second. It's the minutes of June 1st be accepted as noted. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to Ms. Iannucci. Come up.
All right, so our summer has been very busy at ENCSD. As soon as the school year ended, we were Closing out the end of the year processes for academic, financial, and HR. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that needs to be done that goes all the way into the month of July. So everything in terms of our books, in terms of finances, everything has to be closed out by June 30th. But then there's a large process that happens that whole month of July. And then in addition to closing out, we were gearing up for the new school year. And also the passing of House Bill 257 was very good to us, and share some additional information about that along the lines of new business. Our back to work week was a huge success. Our staff are really excited to be here. Been hearing a lot of positive comments from our staff, and the excitement about the school year beginning. We are really excited about the staff who are going to be hopefully approved by you today. And Simone will share that list in just a little bit with you. Our back to school night was a huge success as well. A lot of smiling students, smiling parents. They were excited to be back. We actually had 5 additional students decide to live in the dorm, and we found out on Monday. So we were flexible enough to make that successfully happen for those students. So our dorm is close to being full. We are not using McAdams this year because we have some construction being done in there, and you'll hear a little bit about that a little bit later, but we didn't want to have to relocate students once that construction happened. But if we needed to, we could use that, and the construction company could work around us. So, but we had our first day of school yesterday, and again, a lot of smiling faces, just excited to be here. We have, quite a few students in our elementary program still, so we're building that. So we're really excited about the future of the NCSD, and I'll share some additional information during my superintendent's report, but those are our highlights.
Yes, Gary.
Mr. Chairman, I want to piggyback on that, sort of surprised, I'm sure, but I showed up for the first day, the orientation, and I stayed for 4 hours. And I've been doing this a long time, both in public school and while I was here at the School for the Deaf. This was the most upbeat, most informative, most organized I have ever seen. And the spirit was out the top. It was positive. Everything was positive that was said. Everybody that was brought forward that spoke. It was just a delight to see a school year starting that well. They only had one negative person that spoke, and I've had a talk with him. So anyway, that was me. I didn't know she was going to call on me to start with. So anyway, I just want to give you a heads up. You do a fantastic, your staff did a fantastic job. What a way to start school.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, share one question. I don't know if you're going to mention this later, but can you tell us the overall numbers, like enrollment and how it breaks down with the different high school, middle school?
So our enrollment numbers are fast changing. We have, we opened Monday with, or as of Monday, we had 33 students enrolled. We lost 5, we were at 43 last year. We lost 5 to graduation. We had a family of 2 move to another state. And then we had 1 go to public school. So that brought us down to 33. I'm sorry, down to 32. We recouped 1 over the summer. And then we have a couple applicants. 1 is already ready for review. And we have a couple more applicants that are in the works. So we're hoping to be able to focus on a lot more recruitment this summer. I got tied up dealing with some other issues that took a great deal of my time. So, and you'll hear about that in closed session. But so we didn't get to really do the recruitment for students that we had hoped. We were fastly trying to get our recruitment for our teachers and get them in place so that we could bring students in successfully. And so that was our focus this summer.
So, how many high school, middle and elementary, you know?
So-
Roughly.
Yes, so high school has, I want to say approximately, do you have those numbers to be exact?
I don't have them off the top of my head. I'm still getting used to the,
Yeah, so we have,
I think it's somewhere around 18, but I'm not.
yeah, I want to
100% sure.
say 18. I want to say like 17 to 20 in the high school. And then in the middle school, we have, probably about 7. And then the elementary is the rest.
How many new students have entered this year, this new school year?
Right now we have 1. Unfortunately, we did not have our summer school program, as you know, because of the budget last year and us not being allowed to use that salary for that purpose. And we have some really exciting news to share about that as well. So after the House Bill 257 with the budget and all that passed, we found out a couple of days later that we did receive a $200,000 grant from the state to fund our summer school program next year.
Good.
And that's all I have for celebrations.
On to the board training or 2.
And we need to make up our second part of your board training. So you guys want to talk about dates?
Oh, boy. It's the interpreter, Kevin makes that.
Okay.
Oh. You don't have to follow the drive. You don't have that far to drive. Yeah. Everybody else will have to drive pretty far, but you won't, living in Clayton.
Oh, yeah. So what dates do we think?
Month.
I mean, the sooner the better, I think.
Some dates, so again.
Still aiming for Wednesday morning, which most of us seem to be pretty active.
Um, We were going to do that one after the board meeting last time. So your September board meeting is the 16th. We could do that, just plan to keep everybody. Make a day of it. Do y'all want to think about doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That was really easy.
So it's in, next board training will be
So all day, correct?
Yes,
September 16th.
starting whenever
Board
the board meeting
meeting,
is.
8 to 11 or whatever, 8:30. Then board training, we take the rest of the afternoon.
Does that work for you, Cheryl?
Yes, it does.
How about,
Can I put up the board meeting?
work for you, Gary?
Yeah.
Hey, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm a calendar, but I think so.
So,
I have, and I always have it every time we meet. I have a 12-15 meetings with tourism authority.
Do you guys want to look at a different date? Or I can send Rob materials?
Or like another Wednesday morning thing.
We do it Wednesday
Have to meet.
before the meeting.
Oh, send to the board training first.
I think it's gonna be longer than
We could
you
have
want
a
to get here.
6 o'clock. And have the training that morning. A 4 o'clock board meeting.
What time does your tourism meeting usually end, Mr. Boyd?
It normally lasts from 12:15 to about 1. Today it's gonna last longer because our new county attorney is attending. And there's a lot to bring her and that law firm, Bro firm.
Yeah,
I'm learning about them.
Yeah.
It's
I'm familiar with them.
a different way of doing law,
Yeah.
but it may be what we need. And it's, today's gonna be a little longer, but
Okay.
normally it's only about 45 minutes, sometimes an hour.
So if you wanted to do an evening meeting, we could do like 2 to 5 for training, take time for dinner and have a 6 o'clock night meeting if you wanted to do that. That's an option. Whatever, I mean, I'm gonna do whatever y'all tell me to do, so.
If we wanted to break up some of our meeting times, would be an opportunity to do that.
So Wednesday night, we're talking about.
It's not, well, that's church night too. If you're gonna do it. Stuff. Up here.
Maybe we can go there for dinner.
Gary, Chairman Gary could preach.
I can do it. We'll talk about Revelation.
I think I'm busy that day.
How convenient.
So would you, I guess the question is, would you rather do a more, like a during the day, a morning or an afternoon training?
Refresh in the morning.
I would be, like, I would rather just, I mean, it seems like most of us seem to be free on Wednesday mornings. I'd rather do another Wednesday, I mean, another day, but.
So a different Wednesday morning, is that the general consensus? Okay.
Yes.
Let me look and see what Wednesdays that would work in September. 16. I don't have another Wednesday in September, but
What about August 26th? August 26th.
That's
That's
next
next
week.
week.
do that. Let's do that.
August 26th.
Next week.
Morning. So we're talking morning meeting?
Morning. What's the start time?
I can't, I have an insurance meeting.
But you can't.
I can, 9 o'clock meeting.
Okay.
Next one after that would be. Second,
Second of what?
September,
I can't do the first week in September.
okay,
Second
we
week.
can't do the second week in September. The 16th is our regular board meeting. My next day after that is October 28th. On a Wednesday, it's gonna be a Wednesday.
If it is, it is.
That's what it is.
It's October 28th. Sounds okay to most.
Training.
Morning meeting.
Yeah.
When is
Kevin's saying that's fine.
I'm just curious, are you gonna have any kind of Halloween thing this year? Because if you do, maybe we would be able to be here for that.
We will have it on the 30th,
Okay.
which is a Friday.
So how does the board feel about the 28th of October? Is everybody good for that?
What time?
You tell me what time.
We said morning time.
Regular morning time.
8:30.
Morning time. So at 8:30 start.
October 26th, you said?
28th.
28th.
Which is a Wednesday.
That's a dangerous comment because school just started.
October 28th. 8 to 10, 8 to 12, or
I think 4 hours, yeah. How much time do we have left to cover? Mandy, do you know on the?
I think we did 4 hours the first time.
Maybe start at 8:30.
At 8:30, I would think I prefer. Yeah. So October 28th, 8:30 in the morning, to go for till there, till 12:30 or something like that. Roughly.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Rather block out that time. Good job. Okay. I think we have a decision there, right? I'm going here. And Mandy will remind us.
There you go. Already done.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. If that's okay.
Well, I just wonder, is there any kind of a panic over having a quarter students less this year than last year? In other words, are there any red flags that we need to be aware of, which is not a reflection on you, but just like, these numbers are getting pretty low, and certainly the state of North Carolina is aware of it. So is there any sense of this isn't good?
Like I said, I think the information that people have been receiving is all positive. I think the decisions that the state has made over the summer definitely puts us in a much more positive light as well with their support. That for in a lot of people's minds, last year was the world of the unknown because we weren't sure what was going to happen with our positions. We weren't sure what was going to happen with that salary. And so it was really hard to plan and project forward. And so now that all that is in place, it really gives us that opportunity to highlight all the great things that are going on here. There's going to be some additional information that's shared under new business that is very exciting and allows us a wonderful opportunity to put forth our efforts in a larger light. I'm optimistic moving forward. I really am.
Based on what I know, I agree.
And Iannucci came on with 32. It went from 67, 6 years before that, down to 32. She took over 32. She took it to 45. Now we've had 5 to graduate and we had a couple to leave. And so she will start the building process back, and what you're going to hear and what she's talking about on what happened to other organizations is going to directly help us greatly as we go forward. And I think everybody that I have talked to feels like 50 is it's going to be very easy to attain this year. So.
And Ms. Iannucci and I have talked because I do a lot of traditional public school work and presentations and, different like statewide conferences. There's a statewide Exceptional Children's Conference. There's a North Carolina Council of Administrators for Special Education. There's North Carolina Association of School Administrators, all of which I usually either speak at or am involved with. And so we've talked about where y'all could have tables that would connect you with public schools that might be looking for a resource to help with students who are deaf or hard of hearing. And so it sounds to me like she's got some plans for some things that could come up this year that would, if you make the connection to the EC director, you're going to make a connection to the kids, because when those services are necessary, they'll help with that. So, we've kind of talked about some plans for those things this year too, because I'm with you. I would love to see those numbers go up.
So, and just bear with me because my report actually has a lot of the information about our recruitment plans in it, in addition to the information that
Sorry if I
Rachel,
Rachel,
that's it. I have more.
So we'll get to that part, and I think
Yeah.
all right, so we've confirmed October 28th. We're moving on to the next one. North Carolina Council.
Yes, that's me.
DHS.
Kevin, you were part of the council for a long time. this is not the council you know about. This is a council that I'm watching a metamorphosis, and I've been going 4 times and I have seen it absolutely change and grow. And here again, the last one we went to, there's so much to unpack that I could stay here very easily an hour and do that. So I'm going to very quickly, very briefly run through this stuff. And then if you have any questions afterwards, please ask me. And I'm sure Tip, who was there, our interpreter, he's going to say, well, you forgot this, Gary, and you forgot this. Well, yeah, probably did. So anyway, Tony Davis, who is over the council, announced that he is hiring 3 brand new positions to oversee what is happening now on the council. And that was very exciting because now he is responsible, as he says, from womb to tomb. And so before they kind of looked after adults and barriers and accessibility, but really didn't get into education, didn't get into the younger aspect. And now they are. So everything has been divided now into accessibility, education, and community. So that's the 3 major themes. I'm very disappointed. We still are not a member. And we were told by the legislative representative there that it would not and could not be brought up in the short session. It would have to be brought up in the long session. So we've got to get Buck Newton, and we've got to get Hugh Blackwell, and we've got to get Dante, and we've got to get everybody behind this because we are as big a part of this, and you'll see why in a second with some other stuff they did. We're as big a part of this council now as anybody on this council. There are 18 members on this council, but there are 2 vacancies now. I will continue to audit, and I have really gained a lot of cooperation, collaboration. I know them. It's a good thing that's going on. The first person that spoke was Carol Ann Hutchins. They had put her on the hot seat last time, and they really were upset that did not have data from public instruction, and she came back without any data again. And in a nice way, they say when, and she explained it'll never happen because it's coming from so many different sources. It wasn't collated, and her out was, we're going to set up a task force and we're going to put out surveys of our own, and we'll bring it back together, and then we'll do it ourselves with their help. So it was one of those moments where she was given a reprieve. We had a breakout session, and the other breakout sessions I've been to lasted 1 hour. One is for accessibility. One is for education. Obviously, I didn't go to accessibility. I can only go to one, and that was education. And there's a fellow that took charge. His name is Frank Griffin. He's a deaf fellow. He is a professor at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro, and he is the chairman. And he has put together quite a task force charter, about 4 pages, covers everything. And so we talked about just taking charge of this ourselves. So we not only will be a person or a group of people that can advise DPI, but we'll also throw a lot of heavy weight. So then it came down to who's going to be on this task force. And that's what took 2 hours. Some people self-appointed themselves, and it was discussed whether they had a legal right to be on this task force or a valid right. And then others, it was obvious they had to be on the task force. Leading the list, first round, Iannucci and Todd from the Morganton School. So we were placed there. They came up with 18 other names, but they left vacancies for 4 places. So there would be 22 on this task force, and everybody represented a different aspect of deafness in North Carolina. And as each one spoke about what they brought to the table and were voted on, it was so refreshing to see all of us coming together rather than fighting among ourselves, not collaborating with ourselves. But this is going to be the best thing that ever happened in North Carolina, this task force. And it's being led, like I said, with Frank Griffin and Christina Armfield. Christina's out of Alamance County. She is a representative of a local. So she's got boots on the ground. She works with deaf kids in the classroom, and she's bright, beyond bright. So that took a very long time. By that time, it was lunch. Had a chance to sit down with Lori Rook, get a lot of accessibility from the organization. Iannucci sat with us, and so did, I think, Kristen Todd, which was awesome for us to sit together at lunch for an hour. In fact, we got so carried away, they had to call us back into the next session. Next session was, in fact, Iannucci and Todd bringing an update. Sandy and I had already laid the table or set the table about the schools, the background, the culture, everything that we're going. But they brought an update, and they talked about this new sensory training, this preschool, and both of them were together in their presentation that now we are in 0 to 22 years of age. They did talk about, and they're very, very proud of their immersion camp that went very well. They had 5 families with their aunts and uncles and brother. And it was a camp for a week long where nobody spoke whatsoever. Everything was done in ASL. The other was a drama camp that was put on by another organization and paid for partially by the foundation. We talked a little bit about ENCSD. We collaborated what she had said, but then we also talked about our graduation and what happened because of our graduation and how it is going to engender some fantastic camps for us next year. I won't steal her thunder. I'll let her talk about that. You are sort of gauged on what kind of presentation you make by the questions that are asked by the different people in membership, including the legislative members that are there. They were offered softball questions that lasted a very brief amount of time. So it was very well received. We did have a hard time. The lady that was taking notes, and the cart that was typing out everything as they come. Nobody knew how to spell Iannucci. It took 3 of us to make that happen. After that, the 2 organization or 2 breakout session groups, education and accessibility, just gave a brief overview of what happened. And then they opened it up for comments. And I was sitting there about dumbfounded because I had brain drop. And they said, Mr. Farmer, you're signed up. No, Dr. Farmer, you are signed up to speak. You have 3 minutes. We would like for you to come up and make your presentation. I said, I didn't sign up. Well, this gentleman from Charlotte, deaf fella, Dr. Farmer. I was stunned. There's another one of us in the state. He got up and I was stunned at what he talked about. It's trauma-informed care training that he will be doing in Charlotte. And he has got, he is really qualified. It's a one-day training and he wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, that it's going to be opened up to individuals, families, professionals everywhere. But the fact that a child was exposed to an oral-based education and later on in life learned ASL, the trauma they had to go through from birth until they were exposed to ASL has really affected the behavior of many, many deaf people. And so this individual now is going to have training on how to succeed and how to have different practical tools for building safe and healing center environment. I found that I didn't even know anything like that was available. The other thing is this big academy that we were so worried about down in Wilmington, that's supposed to, it's called the Darden Perry Academy. They're going to teach bimodal, bilinguistics at the same time. In other words, straight English and ASL. Teach all that in the same classroom. That was set up with a collaboration of deaf individuals, and Frank Lupo was in charge of that from the deaf aspect. Mike Lupo. And so Mike was asked, why did you and the deaf people, the deaf adults that were behind this, why did you resign? And he didn't give an answer. And that was very telling. So basically, I got him over to the side and asked him, between me and you, what happened? He said, we were sold that they were going in one direction and they're going in another direction. So the entire deaf contingency no longer there. So they begged, anybody else know of any other organization that we'd love to have come in front of our council and speak? I went to Tony and I went to Michael Evola, who is the chairman. And I said, let's get the head of the Darden Perry proposed academy to come and talk about what they're doing down there. And they thought that was a great idea. So I think that's going to happen at our next meeting. And the other sidebar is when Tony, they've got a brand new facility out Blue Ridge Road. Beautiful, brand new facility. Hadn't even got the furniture in yet totally. He came to me after the meeting and he said, Gary, I'm putting up a picture of a painting to the North Carolina School for the Deaf that they gave me, a watercolor that shows the front of the campus. He said, I ain't going to put it up till I get something like that from you too. I said, well, I didn't know that had been asked for. He said it hadn't. So I said, please send me pictures of it and we'll do our best to, maybe not a watercolor, but we'll have something the same. So in his front office, he's going to have 2 pictures there where the council, his home base is, of both of the schools. So I just thought that was a sidebar that would interest you. Now, I've unpacked it as much as I could. right tip. And, so if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Good.
I assume that there's also representation by DPI. Like I used to be on this years and years ago, and DPI almost kind of ran it. Is that not the case?
DPI Hutchins has been there the last 3 times. She is DPI. And then there's an African-American fellow named Antoine who was on a lower level, but had been the representative and is the representative. It was at one time led by DPI. No, I think they're pretty much an equal partner now. They probably still have a lot more strength in the education aspect of it, but they have decentralized, and she's going to talk about that. Whereas before they had all the deaf population at one school, and now they have put them back, and now they're not getting the services at all because there may be 1 or 2 kids in each school, and then they're using the mechanical interpreter, so yeah, it's a very good question.
I don't know what a mechanic one is. This is for another day. I
It's
guess.
like this thing here. It's like a little laptop.
Yeah.
BRI interpreters. So this is Kevin. Happened, I was talking, I went to a book reading during Christmas last year. It was a book reading to a public school in Joko, Johnston County. And of course, they were talking during that book reading. I talked with several people after the book reading, and I was told that there are about 100 students who are deaf and hard of hearing in Johnston County alone. So if Johnston County has 100 deaf and hard of hearing students, then how many does Wake County have? I'm sure they have over 100. So we need some of those students to be here. I mean, that just makes me wonder, like the outreach program that we've set up, is there some way where we can really look at and encourage and get people excited? And so I just wanted to see if you had anything to say about that.
So in my superintendent's report, I will share like our recruitment efforts and excuse me, what we have planned. So just bear with me for a few minutes and I'll share that information.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think we're ready for the next. That's it. Gary, you're finished, right? Yeah, he's finished.
Okay.
Obviously he's finished. We'll leave him over to his food.
I don't want to step on anyone else's time.
So we're moving to the superintendent's report.
Okay, so like I mentioned, we do have a few applicants in the works. We are really our social media. We've improved a lot in terms of our communication and with frequency and quality of our posts on social media. We will be rolling out a new webpage with Edlio. There was a holdup because of DIT's approval process, and that took a little bit longer than we had hoped. We were hoping that this would have rolled out at the end of last year, but we are working with the company and getting the webpage built with our information and what we need on it. And so we'll see that in approximately 6 weeks. And that'll also include a store for ordering ENCSD swag for alumni that want to order. There's some special alumni logos. There's a fan club type where you can get ENCSD as a parent as well. So, or as a student, or just to wear ENCSD. So that'll offer, a lot of opportunities to people that live away from this area and cannot get here to get some of our swag. We also are excited about our residential program on move-in day. Like I mentioned, we had 5 students whose parents came in and indicated they were excited to that their children wanted to live in the dormitory. And so that wasn't something that anyone, required of them, but they wanted to, because of their experience here. And I think that says volumes for what we do at UNCSD. When students, want to spend more time away from home and at school, that's a positive thing for us, that's for sure. So all of that aligns with our goals. We are also, as Gary mentioned, a member of the task force for the council, and what they're going to be working on is what's working across the state for students who are DHH, whether they're in schools for the deaf or whether they're in public schools, what's working, what's not working, and how can we fix that. And, having a seat at that table, I think says a lot for us. It also, during our presentation, I talked about LRE. And right now, the misconception in public schools is that your LRE, which is least restrictive environment for students who are on IEPs, that is with their peers. However, that policy in ball has one exception, and that exception is for DHH children. And their LRE is where there's access to communication. And, what we hear in our admissions meetings is that the students that are in public schools are not getting that access. They're getting maybe 1 hour, 2 hours a day, once or twice a week in some situations, or once or twice a day if they're lucky, for 1 hour to 2 hours. So it's not all day for every class. It's not every day, or anything like that. And so that deprivation of services is not allowing them to be as successful as they could be as students. So I had shared that information with our superintendents during our RESA meeting last year. We had a presenter from Rachel's office do a presentation to the superintendents of the eastern side region, the Northeast region, and that's probably about 25 superintendents that attends that meeting. And they were doing a presentation and talking about least restrictive environment being an inclusive setting. And it wasn't mentioned that there was an exception, and so I raised my hand and shared that exception and indicated that that's why we have the schools for the deaf, so that we can service those students and provide that level of service. And so that information is getting out there in various ways now. So hopefully, we will continue that push and that knowledge and education of LEAs. And, Rachel is going to the Wrightsville conference for EC directors, as she's mentioned. And, so we're going to see if we can get a table there. And as soon as we were talking about it, my head just started going, and I'm like, it would be great to make a big poster and get David to print it, and explaining what LRE is. And so, just educating people. And we started that a couple years ago with our LEA day. But I think there's a misconception with the LEAs where, they're hearing in least restrictive environments and an inclusive setting with their peers, but not realizing the exception to that rule. And so really educating folks about that exception, I think is important.
No, never mind. Oh, I'm gonna say it. Okay, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna share my experience with the LRE concept, least restrictive environment. So there was one time that I was actually in a meeting with DPI. This was with DPI. Okay, and we had 19 people in the room, in the meeting, 19 people. There was me, and there was another lady. Of course, I'm deaf. There was another lady who was there who was hard of hearing. And the woman who was hard of hearing, she was running the meeting. Unfortunately, that day, there was no interpreter who showed up to the meeting, unfortunately, okay? So the theme was talking about LRE. Get it?
Yeah.
right? So I made it very, very clear. And I was like, the students who are in these mainstream programs in this least restrictive environment, in your terms, that's the term that I use. That is the most restrictive environment where I have no access because the interpreter's not there and you all are talking during this meeting and I was required to be present. And I'm deaf, so I had no access to the information. So I made it very clear that a deaf person in a mainstream program was in the most restrictive environment, not the least restrictive environment. So, and people in that meeting from DPI, that of course includes some of the head leadership from DPI, and I was not holding back. I let it go. It was pow, 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 pow to everybody at the table. I made it very clear that LRE in your terms is not the same thing when it comes to deaf and hard of hearing students. Ooh, it gets my gander up.
There's an irony here because for years, there were these programs with Wake County, for example, had Martin Middle School, Athens Drive High School, they had Combs Elementary, et cetera, that had these programs that were
No
within
more. No more.
Right. And it was such an irony to me when those programs dissolved. For one thing, where do we put our Barton College student teachers if there's only one kid at a particular school? Whereas at a school like, let's say, Combs Elementary, our student could be there working all day. How do you do that if these students are spread all over the place? But to me, the irony could be that even though I think that was a really terrible policy, getting rid of those, what we call them, center schools, the benefit for ENCSD might be what this man was talking about with his, traumatic experiences of these kids who were the only ones in public schools with no real access. It may bring more students to a place like ENCSD, which is a true contrast. I cannot understand why DPI would get rid of programs that seem to me to be working pretty well. But they did, and it may ultimately help us. I mean, that's almost a question mark, but I hope it does.
And I'll just say the LRE is a unique determination for each kid, but you don't have that on your agenda as part of the discussion. So just bringing you back around to the work.
Diverting from, I'm one of the chief offenders.
So some of our recruitment goals this year, is one, our process for receiving applications and reviewing them and getting to that eligibility meeting is often pretty lengthy. And trying to find ways to not, because we do have to gather all the information, all the proper evaluations, and sometimes that in itself takes a while to get it from the school system or the parent. And so we definitely need to continue that, but trying to streamline that process a little bit quicker, where we can start, finish, and as soon as we get those records to be able to review them and get that meeting scheduled right away. And so we're constantly reviewing that process and seeing what we can do. So that in itself will get students here quicker. And then also, looking at opportunities, we want to have a social for our students and invite GHH students from all of our surrounding area. It may be difficult for those that live away a good distance, but at least, do like an ice cream social where they can interact. It gives our students an opportunity to see that they're not the only ones in this boat. And also brings people to campus and, has a wonderful social gathering. So we're looking at doing something like that around September or October. Just provide opportunities, continue putting our students out in our public situation. We've been talking to the Warbirds about, our student signing. the Pledge of Allegiance at one of the games, you know, doing some of that activity out in the community. We are going to be we have several occupational course of study students this year. So some of them are going to be moving towards doing some work in the community as part of that program. So establishing those relationships is going to be further exposure to ENCSD as well. We may have an opportunity. I know the school for the deaf in Florida has a drum line, but they are the only ones. And so we're looking at the possibility of starting a drum line and doing some drama opportunities. And our neighbor over at Sally B, they have some programs that they wanted to combine and let our students participate in. And they do have the drama program. And so, you know, those relationships, continuing to build those and looking for opportunities for our students. We've also been in talk with Wilson Community College about our students taking courses. So again, just, you know, really giving our students those opportunities that they haven't experienced yet. And I think that will continue putting us out there as well as doing some of the, you know, continuing to do the events with the vendor tables and so forth. And really, you know, trying to offer our campus for professional development opportunities for other schools. We have wonderful facilities and just get some of those programs to come in and see who we are. We've had, you know, and over the summer, you'll have some different people come to campus and they're like, oh my goodness, this is a beautiful campus. I've never even, you know, lived in Wilson all my life and I've never stepped foot on this campus. And so just continuing to have those opportunities and putting our name out there, I think is extremely important. So this was a busy summer, as I mentioned earlier. We were required to do a progress update by August 1 for our Cognia accreditation. And so this is our mid-year or mid accreditation time. It's for 5 years, so this is a 2.5 year where we had to answer questions in terms of where we were when I first did the accreditation report when I got here to where we are now. And so Kent and I worked together on that document and submitted it. So we're waiting on a response for that. We also had to submit our accountability plan, and the accountability plan that I shared with you all last year. As you know, they wanted more meat in the report and wanted it more research based. And so it is about 64 pages. So it's pretty lengthy. So hoping that we've covered everything that we need for this go around for it to be approved, but really emphasizing that growth in vocabulary and ASL skills to really help our students grow. And, you know, our students are frequently don't have the access to communication until they get here. And then once they get here, they have to learn the language before they can grow academically. And so it's always combining the two and, you know, helping them grow with those academic skills, but at the same time, learning the language. So we'll wait to hear from DPI in terms of that piece. We also submitted our IDE grant, which is for $79,617. And that is for special ed services. So it's very specific in terms of what we are allowed to spend that money on. We also have the consolidated grant, which combines Title I, Title II, and Title III monies. And that is a grant for $14,531. And that one is kind of picked apart a little bit, and Title II is right around $2,300. And we've never received the rest of this grant before, because it's Title I, but it's Title IB and Title IC. And there's very specific, services and supplies that you can purchase with that part of the grant. And so there's a lot of strings attached to it. So Susan and I are going to meet this afternoon and look at the dollars and look at the expenditures and look at the strings that are attached to that money and make sure that it makes sense. What we've been told by DPI is that schools usually, if it's a lot of money, and $14,000 to an individual may sound like a lot of money, but with everything that we get and receive, the amount of strings that are attached to that money may or may not make sense for us. So we're going to look at that piece this afternoon. So at the next board meeting, I will be able to update you on that process. And at this time, I'd like HR to come forward and just give a brief report.
Susan's making me laugh because I'm always saying H up to the R. I don't know where.
Do you want to hang out here?
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just a brief update, on where we are with recruitment. The rest, of course, I'll share during closed session today. But right now, we're down to 26 vacancies, which is great. We have 8 new hires. Out of the 8 new hires, we have 5 that know ASL. We have 2 TAs that are currently being reviewed. Both of the TAs, which are, of course, our teacher assistants, both of them know ASL. One is deaf and hard of hearing. We have 2 elementary teachers that are going through a background process right now. Both are deaf and hard of hearing. We have 1 elementary teacher starting on Friday who also knows ASL. I have a few of the new hires here that I'll need for you to review and sign, Ken. And other than that, it has been, I'm trying to think of a new word for busy in the HR department. We kind of had a vast rush of the teachers being hired, so I'm kind of going back through and correcting the process. So had to get them through, so kind of cleaning that up. Now we're still moving forward, so haven't had a chance to breathe yet, but that's what we're here for, right? So any questions?
Do the teachers that have, or that know ASL, do they have licensure in deaf education?
That I can't tell you off the top of my head. I just made sure to include the ASL part because I know how important that is. Any other questions?
How did you analyze their signing skills?
I did not. I looked at their application and saw what they had applied for and the credentials that they offered during the time of applications.
One of our new hires was actually an interpreter quite a few years ago, but she is teaching high school science. So she's comfortable with the content, she's comfortable with ASL, but the ASL and the vocabulary for science, she's not 100% comfortable with. So she wanted an interpreter for that purpose to make sure she was communicating the words properly. We still need, even sometimes when they have those skills, they will depend on an interpreter until they feel comfortable. And then once they learn that language, they're good to go. But the vocabulary is what she was really concerned about.
So how many interpreters have you hired to actually be able to pair with the teachers?
So right now we have 3, but one of our interpreters is an admin interpreter. And there were some issues and concerns last year or in the past about confidentiality. The folks who were deaf here, they weren't real sure or comfortable. And so we have hired 2 for the academics and one for the administration. And to try to keep that separate. So whenever are issues that we're not, like the two that are on staff with the academic team, they're in the mix, they're in the classes, they're getting to know people really well. But that third one is going to be kind of kept separate, and help us with some other things as well. He has some strengths in other areas. One of those is marketing big events and things of that nature. So he's going to help us bring some different opportunities here to the school. But like when a staff member needs to talk to Simone about a confidential matter, he would be the one interpreting that so that there's no concern about any of that information getting out then.
Do you know, Cheryl, whether of the new hires, any are going to have to be working on getting their appropriate credentials? In other words, you mentioned the interpreter who's teaching science. Does she have education and credentials? Is she a teacher?
Right. So we do have some teachers that came from out of state, where the transfer process is supposed to be automatic if you have a teaching certification somewhere else. Now, DPI wasn't that way in the past, but with this new legislation, they were able to do that. And so now it's a matter of, like, for instance, we had a computer science teacher, but he was teaching elementary, middle school. So whether or not he qualifies for the high school computer science class, we're not sure until we get that transferred. And DPI has a chance to look at that licensure piece. And so we don't have him teaching high school right now. We do have a staff member that's going to do the EPP program. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It used to be called lateral entry. Now it's called the residency license. And so if you have a bachelor's degree and experience in a particular area, you can go back to school, but you have to have a full-time teaching job to qualify for that educational program. And so you work towards your licensure in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next update is going to be with Susan.
Good morning.
Morning.
The common theme for today is busy. Busy, 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 busy. This has been a tremendously busy summer of being the first year as, a state agency. It was our first year with the full responsibility of financial year-end closeout. I do have to reiterate one thing Ms. Iannucci said. We did finish our financial closeout process at the end of July. We are now, until August 28th, going through the annual consolidated financial reporting requirement for the state of North Carolina, where they will ultimately put out a several hundred-page report about the financial standings of every state agency. So next Friday is the completion of that. During the same time, during those two different activities, year-end closeout and financial reporting, we've also done budget certification for the new fiscal year that we're in, with the budget changes in the new session law. So after next Friday, I'm ready for vacation. Okay? Because there's been no vacations in the business office this summer. Staff has come back to school asking, how was your summer? How was your summer? I've been working all summer. But that's okay. That's part of the job. But it was a stark contrast to last year, when DPI handled all of these responsibilities, and now they're ours. But we're getting through those processes. I would like to just share that last week I talked with, NC Collaboratory, one of their representatives, regarding the financial status of our school. She asked for current and prior year, reports, to do an analysis for the information that they need to send back or report back to the legislature. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that it was a one-on-one. Her teammate could not participate, so she recorded our conversation, which was fine. And I'm collecting back some information to share with her, just for an analysis of the budgetary aspects. And in that regard, our funding has not decreased. If anything, it's increased slightly since the transition. But don't misunderstand, a lot of that is specific to employee increases that we're getting this year, step increases for teachers, legislative increases, health insurance and retirement increases. But still, it's true to say that our budget has slightly gone up. We've not lost any type of funding for our activities. But closeout was successful. I think we adequately demonstrated, our fiscal knowledge and responsibility in terms of utilizing the funds that were allotted to, meet the goals and mission of our agency. We spent all of our money. Okay. I'm just gonna, I can give you specific numbers after it's officially certified for closeout, but we completely utilized our funding. And, some of the things that you can visibly see from that is, we got 2 new school buses for transportation. We hired a lot of people, a lot of new staff, getting preschool programs set.
Wait, you say you got 2?
Yes, yes.
Oh.
Yes,
Mini buses.
2. Yeah, 2, like 16, is it 16 passenger?
Yes.
Officially 16, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's good news.
But that's some of what has gone on the past few months, and it's been a lot, and I'm ready for vacation. Any questions, specific questions?
A well-deserved vacation.
I got more gray hair.
You're still good looking.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it used to be your budget comes in until that budget is certified. There were certain expenditures that you couldn't make. Us being new to that process to some degree, are there any expenditures we would normally make at this time of the year that have gotten caught in that crunch?
No, it being the second year of a biennium helped. We knew we were gonna, at minimum, have the same budget that we had last year. So OSBM was also fast tracking the certification this year.
Right.
So no, sir, we did not have to hold off on any expenditures. We were able to go ahead and make those expenditures because there was an approved budget that OSBM knew was going to be certified. Now, is it pretty yet right now? No. And OSBM is not permitting us yet to make any realignments, and but we will in the coming weeks be able to make realignments, because State Budget Act says that you cannot overexpend in any line item. So in the financial person's way that, we're going to clean it up and make sure there's no negatives. There's nothing in the red in any line item. But we didn't have to hold off and not pay any expenditures currently.
We used to call it true it up. I don't know how that construction term got into a budget, but that's what we call it.
Same thing.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And so our two buses, we were looking at our big yellow bus, the full-size bus is actually, it was gonna require quite a bit of, money to fix it. And it was just under like $9,000 to fix it. And as old as it is and as many miles as it is, it wasn't really worth that much to put into it. So, instead of, the decision was made to buy two mini buses because the larger bus we only use once or twice a year. And we figured if we do get more routes for students, the mini buses would be more useful. And we could always make those two routes or, those two trips a year with mini buses instead of the large bus.
On to construction.
On to construction, and this is Ryan Strickland.
I appreciate your construction. So we have a few updates. Some's gonna be legislative, some's gonna be need approval for a project. Then I'll give you an update on the current project. So Vestal is now reopened. We're slowly inching forward this project. It's been a little painful sometimes, but we're getting there. They've responded well to the fire and everything, so we've gotten past that. It's back open now. The architects approved everything. Building is safe to use essentially. So we're past that point. We still have some more work to do to get some other repairs done, but we're inching closer and closer. Honestly, very painfully, but we're getting there. Another update. So historically, a state agency, when they select a designer or contractor, it goes to the State Building Commission for approval. The three schools here are different. You guys have a board of trustees, so the legislature changed it this year that the selection of a contractor designer falls at your level. So when we advertise for a qualification-based contract, whether it's through design, build, construction manager, which would be a huge project, or a designer for any size level project, it'll be sitting at your level for approval. And once it's done, we move forward with the contract through state construction. So this will speed up the delivery process a lot. It'll make life a little bit easier. So just removing some of the red tape. So with that, we do have one to present. We advertised for design builder for the McAdams bathroom renovation project. We had 5 people submit, so 5 teams submit. We interviewed 4. It's actually the second time. The first time we didn't have, I think we had 1 person submit, and it was not a qualified person. So we did a little more legwork, got some people to submit. Had 5 really good teams submit, interviewed 4 of them. Selected a company called Invisicon and McGill Associates. Invisicon has previously done work in North Constable, the Depths. They're very familiar with working on this type of campus. They are a great contractor. I've had a really good experience working with them on that campus. Very happy with them. So I need you guys to approve the selection of Invisicon. That would be the construction of it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, got it.
question, if you don't mind. Can I have a question?
Oh, yes, you can.
Being that we're a residential school, do they allow, does state construction, whoever, allow you to pre-qualify your bidders because it is on a secure campus?
Yes.
So forth.
Yes, so there's a couple different ways to pre-qualify. We can pre-qualify hard bidding. I will tell you, this is not a very good process. We do a lot of pre-qualification as a contractor ourselves. It's hard to kick somebody out. It's been a very watered down process through the legislature. It's pretty much, are you breathing? Do you have a driver's license? And you can pre-qualify. So it's not necessarily kicking out contractors on your campus. This one is why I choose to design build because it's qualification based. Your contractor comes with their design team, and then you have the decision to select them, and it's not based off the dollar amount, it's based off their ability to do it. So it's a little more safer, and then you work within that budget that you have and say, I need this scope done, I have this much budget, please help me get there. So I believe it's a much better process. When I work for the state as an owner, is the process I use for every project, and we're very successful with it.
Thank you.
So you need to approve on,
Yes, on Invisicon and McGill Associates as the design builder.
and how much is this project?
1.2 million.
3.2. Any other questions about Visicon becoming a contractor?
And just to remind everyone, this is McAdams is, the restrooms are in pretty rough shape. There's a lot of rust stains on the shower walls, a lot of drainage issues, a lot of leaks within the showers. There's a very small shower that would not meet even a shower, specs at
This
all.
project bring a lot of this, all those bathrooms to ADA accessibility.
Yes.
They're very outdated. Making them operate again so they can be used by students.
Question. So which bathroom are we talking about in McAdams? Is it McAdams Hall, right? The big building? So which bathroom specifically, or all of them?
The student bathrooms where the showers are and the dorms.
In the dorms. Okay, so both the boys and the girls?
Yes.
Second question. It's my understanding, of course, I grew up here, but the bathrooms in the boys' dorms are open and it's one big room, one big shower room. Is there any plans to change that?
So they're divided by shower curtains.
So is there any plans to make like individual shower stalls, or are we just gonna stay with the curtains?
That'll be part of, when we go through this process, the design team is developing that scope. So Cheryl directs me to say, this is what we want. We'll design it that way. So it's built that way and installed that way.
This is really just more of a question of curiosity, but is the swimming pool is still there and still not being used, right? Is that the status?
It's not a subject for this.
Right.
It's not a subject for discussion.
Well, it's just a simple question.
I understand.
Well, and sorry to interrupt. So, I just to add to the swimming pool does have bathrooms in it. So that's why I think, and it does have showers in it as well. That's why I would consider it a part of this conversation. Go ahead, Dave, sorry.
I was just asking out of curiosity.
So some of the structural damage that was occurring to McAdams was within the wall of the swimming pool. And so those cracks that were in there, they went in and, made it more secure, the wall more secure, so it wouldn't crumble down like it had started. And they repaired that whole wall. So that part of the process has been done within that room. The other area where they're working on some of the showers is the locker rooms. So that was all part of that project. So they've been working on some drains
Gotcha,
and
okay.
things of that nature.
Gotcha. Okay, that clarifies. Perfect. And asbestos? Any asbestos issues?
We will test for that as part of the project.
We're anticipating finding some
But
things
the-
we've got to take care of.
Building.
And that's why it's taken so long to work on that, why we couldn't do that in-house.
Okay, so for this project, I guess we gotta come back to this. It's true. What's the name of the company?
In
In economy. Any other questions related to them doing this $1.2 million project with the upgrade of the bathroom facility?
Question. I move, well, not a question. I move.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. And we have a second to that motion. Any other discussion on this?
Anyone else want a second to me? That'd be fine. What's the motion? Sure.
The motion is to accept Visicon as the contractor for the work that's being done, the $1.2 million. Okay. So we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
And I just want
Yeah,
to call
yes.
Ryan out. He made me give up a Friday that I was going to take off to interview construction companies.
Didn't think of this refreshment.
That's my job.
Is there a time in which it will start and stop? Finish?
No, we'll work on that. So the next process is we'll go through state construction, get a
Okay.
contract.
Yeah.
So hopefully this being a smaller project, state construction changed their rules, the dollar value of the contract and the plan review process. So since you're a state agency, projects under 4 million,
Yes.
I can actually go through the design process much faster. So I have 15-day code review. So I expect to pick up pace really quickly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much.
All right.
And that finalizes my superintendent report. I do have some topics under new business, but the report itself.
There is no public input, right? There's no public section. No. So we move on to new business.
So as we mentioned, Senate Bill 257, it did allow for a lot of different changes. One was all teachers across the state of North Carolina received step increases. And it varied by the year that you were working. And so there's no real good way of like giving you all that information because, you know, on the early end of a person's teaching career, they got more money. On the latter part, they did get something this year, but not to the same degree. All state employees, which we have both teaching and state employees here, received a 3% raise. And so there's also some bonuses that they've received via the state legislation. But again, that depends on how many years they've been here and so forth. And then it also, one of the really exciting opportunities is the Early Learning Sensory Support Program. And that will be transitioning like we did from DPI to DOA. The ELSSP, short for Early Learning Sensory Support Program. It's a mouthful. So they will be transitioning under ENCSD. And that transition, we've already started meeting last week. Gary and Ken actually attended that meeting. I will say the woman that Gary mentioned that attends the DHHS meetings or the North Carolina Council for DHHS, she is in charge of it, Carol Ann. She's over all of EC in North Carolina. And they appointed her, the person to make this transition go smoothly. And I will tell you the information that we've already received and have reviewed, and she's set up this dashboard. And it just includes all the specifics. And we asked some additional questions last week when we met with her on a Teams meeting about like how many employees, how many are DHH, how many are VI, which is visually impaired. And so I just saw an email. I didn't have a chance to look at it because she sent it during this meeting that came in from her with some of that additional information. So we're really looking at like how's it gonna play out? How many more staff will we get? Because their staff will be divided, but they'll be divided, you know, it's the school for the blind, it's the other school out west, and CSD for the deaf, and then us. And so, you know, how do we divide their region? Because they were statewide. So how do we put that in regions, and which children will we continue to serve, and what staff will we get? And if they only have one speech pathologist, how will we divide that role? If, you know, the students that's being served by all three schools require that service, and so forth. So there's still a lot of information that is up in the air, but it's starting to really come together, and we're starting that process. We have a meeting this afternoon at 4:00 with Mr. Deese, and he is from DHHS. DHHS had an MOU with DPI to provide the level of support and supervision that they provided ELSSP prior to this transition. And so we will have to establish an MOU with DHHS to do the same. Yes,
Just to add some meat to the potato here, the bones, whatever. We're talking about $7 million we're gonna divide up. We're talking about 52 employees and they're working right now. But by December 1, we gotta have it all divided up. We gotta have it continuing. And was some discussion and concern. These people that are working now under DPI, and it's coming all to us and to the School for the Blind. They know nothing about that. So that puts a lot of impetus on us to hurry up and make these decisions because they've got mortgages, they've got homes, they've got everything, and they don't realize they're going to be absorbed. And just my gut feeling, and we talked a little bit about this, two things that I was able to glean from it. DPI, they're ready to go right now. They want to give it to us. Not like the transition where they drug their feet and they really didn't think it was going to happen. Carol wants this to happen, wants to happen quickly. And so Inucci and Todd and this lady from the School for the Blind who just has been hired from Georgia. We've got to put our full trust in them, and they've got a good handle on what they're doing and what we're doing, because I sensed something else. I sensed a power grab. We're responsible for 54 counties. Morgan's responsible for 46 counties. But this lady, and we don't even know how many students are at the School for the Blind, probably very few, but they extend out. They want to take over all the deaf-blind students right now without discuss. I mean, so a whole lot of discussions are going to happen. But Inucci's got finger right on the pulse, in my opinion.
and so the staff that come with them, there's also in addition to over $7 million, the fleet that they use because they actually work from their homes. So that's going to involve a lot of our IT department, making sure that, the systems that we use and that they use are all secure for them to work remotely. But they travel to and from either the student's home or the child's home or the child's preschool program. So wherever that natural environment is that child already attends or stays at home, they work directly in the home. There are some differences in philosophies between the schools and this program. And so we will, have to work on that. But, their job is to really look at providing all the different resources and options for families who have DHH children. And so, making sure that they're educated and can make informed decisions is, our philosophy right now in terms of this program, just making sure they're getting all the information that they need to make quality decisions for their child. And making sure that they know of the importance of that access to communication at such a young age. So we definitely see an opportunity to really influence his birth to 22 with these programs. The second program, does anyone have any questions about that program before I go into the second one?
I do. This is Kevin. So question actually. So regards to early intervention, the early intervention program, is that the same thing as this, or is that considered something totally different?
So both programs have the terminology of early intervention. This program goes in, really works with the families and refers them to audiologists and, looks at that whole piece of it. And puts a lot of emphasis, from my understanding, on the medical response to deafness. And so that's where I said that our philosophies differ somewhat in terms of that piece. And so just bringing the two philosophies together and making sure that they are well informed of all their options.
So is ENCSD going to be sort of handling the administration of it in our region, or, and like, I'm kind of like Kevin, I'm trying to figure out, it almost sounds like a combination of what Beginnings was doing, giving people options, but also the 0 to 2 program where they would go into the homes. And I'm trying to understand how
Yes.
that program relates to this, and that used to be very statewide. Is it now going to be a function, one of ENCSD's roles?
So ENCSD will basically supervise this program, and it'll be a program under our umbrella. So we will have ENCSD school, but we will also have the early learning support program. And so it'll branch us out and make our services much broader. Very similar to the past,
Right.
because this program used to be under the schools.
Right,
So this program services the ages 0 to 2.
right.
The Beginnings program also is part of this whole legislation that just passed. And that's the next program I was going to be referring to and talking about.
So for this one, effective December 1st, we will have total responsibility for the 0 to 2 grade.
Yes.
And how many people?
Well,
Yeah.
in the whole program, there's like 52,
Right.
but with
Right.
2 or 3 vacancies. But how those services are, or what services are provided by those people vary. Some of them, most of them are teachers. But some of them are speech pathologists, some of them are occupational therapists. So there's some of those, the people in those roles as well. That's outside of the instructional piece.
And will will there be an administrator overseeing it who is on campus here, or how's that gonna work?
That's what we're still trying to figure out. You know, this is a program that they had, they were trying to really make sure that this transition didn't happen. They did not want this transition to happen. They wanted to continue being funded. So a lot of people aren't real happy about making the transition. So we really won't know exactly how many of those staff stay on. I know there's probably a few that are ready to retire. So how many is going to be retiring? How many won't make that transition? So those are all the underlying questions that we have, and that won't be answered probably until much later.
Who does the hiring?
Right now, we were indicated that we would be part of the interviews for the new hires. We would be included in that process.
Yes,
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
so who says yes or no to the hiring?
But ultimately, I believe we would have more of an influence, based on the fact that they would then become our employees.
But that's not written down.
No, it's not yet.
But we have 2.
But DPI is involved in that process as well.
Really?
Yes. They've been involved with their hiring. That's part of their MOU.
And there's no sunset clause in that.
I haven't looked at the end.
Yeah.
I haven't just met this week. Is it just me?
We just met Thursday.
Thursday.
And so we don't have a copy of the MOU yet. But that's still information that we've requested, some additional information. And that's one of them.
Mr. Chairman, I just recommend that explore sunset clause. Open-ended like that.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Do you think this is gonna be like a real change, or do you feel like No, it's really the program that has been in existence for a long time, but it's just they're changing the administrative structure.
They're changing the administration structure because they want changes to the program. They want to make sure our families are, DHH families are getting all the information that they need to make the best choices for them and their child. And right now it's going towards one side. And so we want to make sure that, we're giving them the education to make the choices that's best for them and their child.
And just one more question. The emphasis really is on 0 to 2 in this program, right?
Yes.
We had gaps. We had 0 to 2 and we had from 3 to 5. There were gaps in there. Now there's going to be no gaps. It will all be divided up. And when I say all, she hadn't even told you, cars have got to be divided up. Desks, supplies, toys, all of these things that you're working with small children have to be divided up. But they're going to move from where they are now, but the responsibility now and the inventory will go to Inucci that belongs to ENCSD. And she and this board will take control.
They also.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, right.
I respect greatly what you're trying to do. I've been involved in eliminating state agencies, combining state agencies. You have to know who pulls the trigger. Yeah. You have to. You'll come to that and say, oh, we'll work that out.
Got to be done by December.
We can work with DPI on some kind of, where there's not clarity, some kind of process for the transition. I'm the same way as you. I want to know who has what authority. If Cheryl calls and says, I don't want to do this, or I want to do this, I want to be able to look at something and say, you have the authority or not,
Particularly in a situation where the child can't speak for themselves.
Yeah,
0 to 2, that's what we're talking about.
yeah, babies.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Kevin?
So are you involved in that process as well?
She will be. She was, her schedule did not allow for her involvement in our last meeting. But when we have our meetings in the future, we will, have our representative there. The first meeting, there was some confusion initially. It was just supposed to be the superintendents without anyone else, just to kind of give an overview of the program and not like go real in depth about all the information, but just give us kind of an overview of it. And then that meeting quickly kind of spiraled and attorneys got involved and board members got involved. And so Gary and Ken did come. And so we figured we would, if anything came up that we had to have an attorney for, I would certainly talk to Rachel immediately after the meeting and, ask her take on it before we responded. But, yeah, so it was pretty much informational. We got to ask a few questions. So she, besides the dashboard and them showing us what was included on the dashboard, and I'll be sharing that with her, and talking to her more about that.
And I have, because of the years I have in public education, Carol Ann Hudgens, I know her very well. I feel very comfortable calling her office and going over there and getting an opportunity to meet with her and talk through kind of some of the logistics and what is their understanding and those kinds of things. We have a connection to the state board attorney, like DPI's attorney and things like that. So I feel like we can work through those things, but it's going to be a lot. Now, the flip side of that, and tell me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, but in my mind, I think, man, if you can get them here when parents on campus to the school, when their kids are babies, your recruitment efforts are starting years before they're ever in grade school. And so, that piece of it, I think from the school side, this is just my personal opinion, like that recruitment piece of it, let's get those parents on campus when we can get them on campus. Let's hold, the information sessions and stuff like that, because that's going to get there. They're going to be looking at the school going, this is a great option for when my kid gets school age, if that, if that's appropriate in the
but it's a significant responsibility.
It's huge. It's huge. I asked Cheryl, where are they gonna be? I have so many questions. And to me, I mean, obviously the wheels of justice turn slow. But in my mind, I think that actually September, October, November, December 1st is not a long time to transfer a program of that size, you know, to a school that's still finding its way as a state agency. So there's a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it.
And DPI, their whole philosophy on taking these small children and bringing them up to school age was about one of the, now the philosophy will change. How it's gonna change, we'll determine that from you.
So we have 3 months to put that program in place.
Which, you know, it sounds impossible. But if you really look at where we were when we transitioned from DPI to DOA, the real work of that did not happen until the last 3 months. And, you know, they were a year behind but they still didn't have everything ready. And it was never as organized as this transition. So just, I mean, we were all appreciative, all 3 schools, because just to see the amount of information that we were able to gather just in that overview meeting was significant in comparison to what we went through with our last transition.
Well structured.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the dashboard, it's got everything. But now, Rachel, this is for your benefit. The lawyers were not interested in any of that. The lawyers were interested in 126, 115. That's all they talked about. And I don't know, I get them mixed up there. And Medicaid and Medicare, those children, they want to be identified so they can
The
start.
reimbursements.
Yes, reimbursement. That was huge.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in that.
Yes.
Sandy and I were present. I didn't say nothing. Sandy didn't say nothing because she called it a brain dump. And honest to God, we were hit with over an hour straight, just coming at us like this from Carolyn.
So I don't remember how many kids might be,
Um,
but you gotta have
Yeah.
a rough idea because they're doing it now.
total kids. Well, I don't know how many each teacher services.
Right.
Yeah,
How many are blind? How many are deaf? Blind? How many are deaf? We don't know anything.
What's the
Yes.
total kids in this?
You know, that's what's talk, yeah.
I don't right now.
Okay. Kevin, have a question.
They gave us staffing.
I'm just throwing this out here, just an idea to try to help out this situation. Because of this kind of situation is kind of new and it's very, it's taking us all back a little bit. Have you thought about people that are out of retirement or in retirement, people who might have experience here in the past, like Lori Rook? She has tons of experience, and maybe asking her to assist, maybe having a contract with her to help us through this process. Even, Diane Pope is another person that came to mind. I know that she retired many years ago, but she was the preschool program. She was part of the preschool program here. So you may get a lot of ideas and may be able to think outside the box and they help us to go through this process. You know, it's just a food for thought.
Okay. We also have one of our teachers that we just hired. She approached me and she was involved in a very similar program out in Arizona that they had. And she's like, I'd love to talk to you more about it. So we, we'll definitely talk to different people. Lori Rook, I told her, I said, I heard you want to come back to ENCSD and teach. So I tried to recruit her. She wasn't up for that. Said she's too busy. So I tried though. But okay, so any other questions on ELSSP? There's still a lot of answers we're looking, to get during the transition meetings. We'll get some more this afternoon. before I move on to the beginnings? Okay, so beginnings is a program that lost its funding as well. They were able to get $750,000 of non-recurring funds to support them through this year. However, those funds are going through us. So we've already received those funds and we have to develop a contract with them and spell out exactly what services and all of that and how that's going to look. We're still trying to, it was very vague in the legislation in terms of the beginnings piece. And so we're trying to get some additional answers from Senator Blackwell's office and some others on, you know, exactly how they want that. There was a committee that worked on it. So, but beginnings, you know, the work that we saw them do was they served as a liaison for the parent and the school and often attended their IEP meetings and, you know, made sure that, you know, if the child didn't have proper services in their IEPs, that they would try to encourage that. I guess there's some historical view of them that's a little bit different of a perception than that. But that's kind of what they did, the work that they did with us here. And their financial situation, I'm not too sure about because they have to, instead of reporting it like any other state agencies or organization does here in the state of North Carolina, they have to submit their financial report in April directly to the committee that's in the Senate. So I'm not sure exactly what that was all about, but I know there was some concerns in some way or form to make that happen. So initially, Diane is the director. I'm drawing a blank on her last name, but we had a meeting.
Hope.
Yes. And so Diane was
Doke. Is it Doke? D-O-K-E. Diane Doke?
yes, I believe so. And so she sent us an MOU. And in the legislation, it said that ENCSD and NCSD could create an MOU between the two schools if only one of us wanted to be responsible for this program. And so that was the only statement about an MOU. But the agreement between us and Beginnings has to be a contract. And so Diane sent an MOU to us outlining like pretty much everything they wanted this program, you know, this in this contract. And so we're like, well, we need to back up because, you know, it's required to have a contract. You know, our attorneys are looking at the legislation and looking at the requirements, and we'll draw up a contract and be in touch. And so that's kind of how we've left it in the process of writing a contract and communicating with Kristen. And then I'm going to share that with Rachel and see what else we need in it.
That video just said you have 5 minutes left in your meeting. I just want to make sure that people on the online are not going to get kicked off.
Okay.
The up there, it popped across the top and said you have 5 minutes
I
left in
think
your
it
meeting.
continues, doesn't it? But just to be sure.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Any
I don't know.
questions?
Isn't that, I don't know.
Any questions about beginnings? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I can't let this go. I just make this comment. When the General Assembly mandates a single source contract, it generally is a payoff for something. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Understood what you're saying.
One of the questions I have is their funding might transfer, but is there any funding for the transfer, right? So, it's one thing to say, you're gonna continue to get the money to operate the program. Well, there's expenses, I am an expense you're going to have. If I'm gonna go through these documents and things like that to make sure you're set up, is there any funding to cover the actual transfer? I don't know whether I don't know what's out there, but the funding for the program doesn't contemplate the funding for a big move of the program. I don't know.
Good question.
There's a million tiny details. You're talking about taking on the cars. That in and of itself has a whole list of things, how the car's registered, who owns them, whose insurance is covering them. Do you need another policy? There's a million things like that to go into some of that stuff. So, we'll have to dig in. Maybe what we ought to do is plan kind of like, go ahead and set out regular meetings on these transitions of these things. Like, we'll have this, I don't know, but I think it's gonna take a lot of like, pushing forward on this stuff.
Well, they use so when you're a state agency, you have to use a particular department for the cars. And so we know that they, get the fleet from them. So that would continue.
Motor fleet?
The motor fleet, yes. Motor pool. So they use that. And then, but exactly how many do they have, like a contract for the service of it? So those were some of the questions we started asking last week.
And who are the drivers and who, like the drivers of the cars?
Well, each in the ELSSP program, each teacher and service coordinator is assigned a car.
Okay.
They're assigned a computer, a printer, a phone for their home offices. And so that's how it's set up right now.
Okay. Well,
I think, just very quickly, my confusion a little bit, and I don't know that there's an answer, but in my experience, beginnings, attempted to be neutral, but in my experience, boy, parents were choosing to send their children to public school, get cochlear implants very much. And I think that was a criticism and maybe a backlash by many of the deaf community that, we don't have a chance because beginning gets in there. So it's just going to be interesting to me if they're more or less under the schools for the deaf, how that's going to work. I think you might have some interesting discussions with.
Right. So when we found out last year that this transition was even possible, I don't know if you all remember me talking about the meeting I went to at the General Assembly office, and we had a meeting with Diane, with a representative from a couple of different offices there, Kristen and myself, and a lobbyist. And we weren't real sure because we couldn't get any straight answers in terms of what was the goal of this meeting. And so when we first got in there, nobody said anything. And I chimed in and I said, I know we're all like not real sure what to say. I said, so I'm going to just address the elephant in the room before we even get started. And my understanding is we have very different philosophies. So I think we have to work through that first. And before we can go any further. And that, we talked and Diane said that she felt like their philosophy in the beginnings program was closer to ours than what the ELSSP program was. Because at that time there was no one there to support them, but they were also part of that conversation. And so, we're well aware that that difference in philosophy is there. And been told to kind of tread lightly.
Yeah. Well, I know they do attempt to be neutral, but the reality was, boy, parents were choosing a more oral approach, probably 90%. Or, I mean, I'm making up that statistic, but.
I think the
History
difficult, right, and I think the more difficult process of it is they were referring them to specific audiologists
Right.
that had connections with the 4 research schools.
Yeah, that's right.
And so the FDA didn't approve cochlears until 12 months old, and they were getting them as early as 6 to 9 months old, put in, so. So, we have been talking about a preschool program for a while. We purchased preschool equipment for the playground last summer. And have had it for a while. So we are actually targeted to open our preschool program on September 1st. We already have one full application to review. And we had, last spring, we had 4 people inquiring. I worked with DPI, early development program for childhood, and they basically indicated since we're a PSU, we don't have to go through all the licensure and the certification program process that your private daycares do, or preschool programs, or your Title I programs. They said as long as we're using school funding for that purpose, that we didn't have to go through those avenues, and that with our inspections that we already do and the certifications that we already do, that we could just go ahead and start that program. My next question was, well, what if we don't receive, or we don't get a quality applicant? We also checked with licensure to see, because, for a preschool program to be successful, that ASL component is so important. And so, what if is there any leeway on, because private schools or private preschool programs, they only need an associate's degree to be a teacher in a preschool program. If you're under a public school structure, that teacher has to have a bachelor's degree. And so we were trying to see if we could, because the ASL is so important, could you do an associate's degree with the ASL? And they said, absolutely not. And so in my conversation with DPI, I said, well, would we, if we didn't find a quality teacher for the preschool program, would we be able to do a long-term sub who had an associate's degree with the ASL until we found someone? And they said, yes. We have that person on staff. She's worked in a preschool as a preschool teacher prior to coming to ENCSD quite a few years ago. I think she's been here for 6 years. And so she's fluent in ASL. And so we have her being a long-term sub in that program until we can find a qualified teacher with ASL. And then she would move into being the TA for that program instead of the lead teacher, because of that bachelor's degree. She, and I forgot to mention this during my celebrations, we actually have 3 TAs who are going back to school this semester to work on their bachelor's degree to become teachers. One's actually working on his master's degree to become a media coordinator, and the other 2 are working to become teachers.
Will they need birth through K licensure? Is that the licensure for a preschool teacher?
The preschool teacher does need the pre-K, yes. So it's 3 to 5.
Right. Oh, 3 to 5.
Any other questions, comments? I know you got a full
No,
3 months.
Nope.
It's been busy.
All right, you want to take a break now or not?
Before we get into policies.
Yeah, before we get into policies.
Long list session.
And so just to say this too, just to, with us not knowing exactly how many more employees we're getting and where they are, if they even know ASL, if they don't know an ASL, with them not coming to campus. We're not really sure. I know the beginnings program, their staff, they didn't always have a bachelor's degree. They may not even have an associate's degree. So, not knowing all those pieces yet, that's why I kind of said, I don't know if we
Exactly,
can
yeah.
do this broad communication for teachers when we don't know about those
Yeah, we
specifics.
don't know. We don't know what we're gonna get.
But I have been working on our vision, and this is just the one mock-up that I did. So, our vision, our mission, and then our motto. So the motto, that we're using this year is where language opens doors and dreams become reality. So we've been operating off of that for the back to work week and back to school night was shared with the parents. But the vision and the mission, just making it broader where it encompasses birth to 22 as opposed to just a school environment. So I went ahead and, updated that a little bit. And so I can send this out and you guys can critique it if you want and give me some, if there's any recommendations you have or comments you want to make. We can do that since this meeting's getting pretty lengthy.
So I didn't have a response on the short break. I know we have a lot more to go.
So, Mr. Chairman, getting another cup of coffee is always good.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a 5 to 7 minute break, which you know.
The second reading we have to vote on. The first reading, we don't have to vote.
That's right.
So you can do that in one time.
And Todd has reviewed them. So. Randy.
Yeah, I emailed him.
Yeah,
He'll be getting another chunk soon.
good. And he looked at, did he discuss with the policy folks, the ones that new legislation might have?
I received a document from you guys that I
Yeah.
haven't reviewed yet, but
Okay, we'll look at that. So to put that on top of your list for policy for September, because some of those are like, supposed to be, they adopted in July and we're supposed to have it before school starts in August. So
yeah,
other places. are
yeah,
not
I'll
doing
pull
that,
those, but they'll have to go through our review processes and before they can go in.
But they'll be expedited. When we put them on here, we'll probably put them on for adoption on a first reading.
Let's move on with the policy.
Okay.
Anything or?
Well, you guys received, the information about these policies in June, these for the first reading, and you had those in hard copies in your folder for the first reading. These are primarily, related to our code of conduct, here at the school.
Okay. So we have those.
Mhm.
And we should be reading those this next month. We're gonna make a decision on it.
For the first read, so
First read.
the second read ones right now you received last month, so we're ready to vote on those unless you have any comments or concerns. And those were all of the code of conduct policies last month or June.
Yeah, we'll let everybody look. Make them all happen at one time.
As he looks.
Let's roll those another way.
You don't make the motion, I am.
Good. I like
But
that.
you do have a motion on.
Mr. Chairman, if everybody's kind of reviewed the second reading of the policies 1 through 20, I'll make a motion, we accept those policies as presented by our committee.
And that's 21.
Right.
One for 20.
Oh, I missed 20. Okay, I looked down.
You're okay.
I'm sorry. I know how to read Roman numerals.
We have a second on this, Rob.
It's like,
You didn't have to second it.
I know, but
So it's been moved and second that we accept these policies, item number 1 through 21. I think I said that.
That's wrong.
All in favor? Well. All right. Agreed, signed, okay. Motion carried unanimously. So that's on the second read policies. For the first read, have those to read for the next month meeting.
Yes, and those are all of our technology policies. There are some revisions, as we went through those technology policies. It became clear we needed to restructure some of our previously passed first read policies. So, those 4 revisions are there for you. At the end of the policy, those revisions are spelled out for you so you can see where they were revised within.
Yeah, from that.
The committee will be reviewing those.
Next
Next
month.
Okay. Any questions on that? Not, we'll move on to
G, school attorney contract.
We have a first read.
Morning, said. Yes, full visit, G.
well, G, item G, school attorney. It's not full session.
It's not.
She makes.
Sorry.
Thank you, Nikki.
I think the contract that you guys signed last, I proposed a 2-year contract. You guys voted on a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
So I think it expires and you voted last September, I think. So I didn't turn in anything. I didn't even know it was gonna be on here. So I appreciate you guys looking out. But yeah, I don't think you need to do anything this month if you don't want, but I can send a new contract for y'all that would, if you want me to do that.
Yes.
Yes, do that. They will vote next week.
Happy to do that.
I'm sorry, I missed when your contract expires. Did you say October?
I think they voted on it last September. I don't remember, they voted September for a 1-year contract. So I think it expires in September. But the contract itself, I believe it says that, you know, if it doesn't, a new one doesn't get voted on and you continue to ask me to do work, then I'll just keep doing your work.
Plan to vote on that.
That'll be fine. I'll get you something for the packet for next time. Thank you, guys. It's always an honor.
Any other issue for open session?
yeah, I still think we should bring up the SLPI because there was going to be like an ad hoc committee over the summer or something, or part of our meetings over the summer, and that didn't happen. So I don't think we should drop it. I think it should still be there. And so Cheryl, do you have any ideas about how, like, it doesn't have to be an agenda item right now, but just some kind of plan for working on it or whatever, because it looks to me like it's been dropped more or less.
It's not that it's been dropped, it's those unknowns in terms of those other staff, because ENCSD is not going to have just a school with teachers. We're going to have the 0 to 2 program with teachers. And so we've got to kind of figure out how to, if we're going to make an employee policy, how do you do that under both?
I don't,
Is that
and
unless you,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but no, I don't think you can. I think if you're working with, if the whatever it is, ELSSP program is basically 0 to 2, it's not appropriate to be expecting excellent science skills. I mean, it's just not. And so to me, that ought to be totally separate. I mean, I see no relationship
between that program and expectations for classroom teachers.
At that age.
Yeah, yeah, so it just, it seems like that's not something that we need to wait until December to kind of work out a policy, because to me, they're very separate. Plus, those people are not going to be on campus.
Right.
So to me, and I mean, I'm not, pushing for any particular thing, but to sort of get the process started, which we have not yet done.
So my concern would be if, say, like after December 1, say in January, we have to hire a teacher. Those teachers are going to both be categorized in the same category under us as 115C employees. But when we hire you, if you're in this department, then this is your requirement. And if you're in this department, then this is your requirement. How do you bridge that gap of equality?
You look at the job description. And if the job description is working from 0 to 2, you don't worry about it.
Rachel, what, any
Not at that
insight
point.
on that?
I mean, I think the way I think it impacts the policy is that you do have to, if the board decides they want to carve that out and, I don't know, but I think that the research would say that if you think of ASL as a language acquisition at 2 years old is something, if you were talking about Spanish, they would be saying that's the best time to teach them. So I don't know about all of that. That gets into programmatic things. I don't know about these programs we're acquiring. But it's just that, we can write a carve out in there based on what the age that the teacher is teaching. If that's what the board chooses to do.
If this is like the other program, in my basic experience, it has been more, you're working with the parents. I mean, you're not directly teaching 1-year-olds. You are working with the parents in the home, showing them all the things they can adapt and the ways they should be reinforcing language, et cetera. And so to me, to be bringing ASL into it is the way of.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, timeout, though, they're actually working with the children as well. They have toys. They actually have 2 storage sheds,
Right.
one on the east side and one on the west side of the state, because they, bring out new items as the child gets used to something. They are teaching.
I do understand all that, but I just feel like we're just kind of kicking it down the road because we don't want to deal with it. I mean.
No, that's not what I'm trying to do. We have OSBM, we have DOA regulations with state agencies and state employee requirements that we have to meet.
State Board of Education.
State Board of Education. And so I'm just trying to make sure, because it's very, I will be honest with you, it's very confusing with 126 employees and 115C employees. That's why the other attorneys brought that all up last Thursday. And so then whenever you have, the same category of employees and your expectations for those employees are different, that's going to bring even more uncertainty or confusion to the process. And so my concern is just making sure that legally in line with the guidelines that we have to follow with those other state agencies being over us, that, our expectations of the staff are in alignment with one another. And is it okay to expect this from this group of people and this from this group of people when they're under the same category? Because those categories are all spelled out with the state.
I think from a practical, I don't have a dog in this fight. If you guys said everybody, including you, are gonna go get, including you, Rachel, are gonna figure out sign language, then I'm gonna be signing on tonight, and that's what I'll be doing, right? So just, I don't have a dog in this fight. I do think where it matters is if there's any resistance on any employee to that requirement being placed on them, and there are some employees that don't have that requirement placed on them that are in the same category, we're gonna have to figure out how to deal with that, I think. Because, I do think they will say, she's a teacher, I'm a teacher. I have to do this, she doesn't have to do that, you know, and there may be good reasons for that, that we may be prepared, but I do think we're gonna have to be able to have a conversation about that with that.
Let me say one last thing, okay? This, I don't disagree with you at all, and it seems like this is what we should have been meeting on. And at the beginning of the summer, we said, okay, we are going
Our
to.
policy committee.
And that you were gonna get, Rich Magazine involved in it, et cetera, et cetera. I think all of this is worthy of discussion within a particular subcommittee. But it hasn't happened and there's no agenda item for it. So to me, it just looks like, okay, it's dead. When it seemed like as a policy, us on this committee agreed, yes, we are going to, we like the idea of having some kind of a requirement. So all I'm asking is really, what are we gonna do about it? I'm not saying, I mean, you may have very valid concerns, but we haven't got together as a subcommittee, and I don't even have to be on it, but
And I think if you remember correctly, though, for the summer, it was difficult for us to get our committee for a policy review together.
yeah, it was.
And it's even more difficult when you're wanting teachers or TAs to participate and they don't work during the summer. So that's why that meeting did not happen. And that's one of the reasons we tabled it until September, where we could start meeting and have those people involved in it. You know, we didn't meet as a policy review for August because that's one of the busier times of the year with hiring, with trying to get back to work week together and all of that. And so I think it was you that brought it up that we'll look at this again in September. And so that's where my mindset was.
Yeah, and as long as it's not buried, I have no problem with any, I mean, all of these nuances legally, all that, I mean, I think it's all important. But what I'm afraid of, it's gonna be buried.
Yeah.
So,
And no one's trying to bury it. You know, I want to make sure.
I'm on the board to 2030, so I know it will not be buried.
Can I propose a timeline that I think might make sense to the board? What if, because one of the things that we did talk about, was we had a couple that we were looking at. I think there were two, there was one that I had, there was one from Florida that Sharon put out. There were a couple options. Why don't I try to synthesize them based on the input we have from the board thus far into some kind of springboard? You can flick that out the window and use it, or it might be something that's useful to you as a starting point. I will do that this in August. Your policy committee could have a discussion about that in September. And then why don't we, on that October 24th date, or at your October meeting, plan on an extended discussion, like plan on a little bit longer meeting to discuss what comes out of that September, like out of that first review by the policy committee. And that would be, I'd give us an opportunity to take a look at that in October. We could either do that, we would have two shots at that in October, your October meeting, or we scheduled that board development piece where we could, you know, add an hour to that for a policy discussion on that particular policy. It's up to you.
And OSHR, I know, we can certainly reach out to them and see, like, in terms of a state agency, if we have the same category of employees, is there anything legally preventing us from requiring, you know, different aspects of it? And I know when Simone spoke to them before, they wanted us, they're like, well, what do you do right now? And when she told them, they're like, well, why wouldn't you just continue that if it's working? And she said that the board wanted, you know, a policy in writing. And she's like, well, anytime you put things in writing, you then risk litigation. And so if it's working, why not keep it that way? So I don't know what her, you know, in terms of the different category, because we're taking something different to her, but that was her philosophy before. Whether or not that changes, I don't know.
I remember what you wrote a couple of months ago, Ray. I mean, I haven't read it in 2 months, but I liked it. And I appreciated what you did to try to kind of synthesize a couple of months ago, but I'll stop. I mean, I've said my piece, but I do think it should be there.
What do you all think about that timeline? I get something to the policy committee to review in September, and then you guys can look at it in October.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Rob.
I'd like to move and place into a motion the recommendation that our attorney made just a few minutes ago in terms of that timeline.
Second. All right. Move the second, and I agree personally that we should adhere to, at least be like a draft policy, if you will, that we can act on, that we won't forget.
Put it to a
Okay.
vote.
Okay, all in favor of this? Thank you. All right,
Mr. Chairman, if there are no further discussions in open session, I make a motion to go into closed session. I move that the Eastern North Carolina School Cadet Board of Trustees go into closed session to consider personnel matters as provided by North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A6 and 115C-321. And to consider confidential student matters as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.1. Point 11A1 and the Family Education Privacy Rights Act 20 United States Code 1232G. And to consult with the Board of Education attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A3.
Did you repeat?
so we have the motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Second by Rob. All in favor? Okay, we are now in closed session.
All right, what has to happen?